Hi again. Walter Brueggemann and Christianity and the Social Crisis, page 17. Another cause for the keen interest of the prophets in social justice deserves mention. The belief in a future life and future reward and punishment was almost absent in Hebrew religion. To live to an honored old age, to see his children and children's children, to enjoy the fruit of his labor in peace under his own vine and fig tree, that was all the heaven to which the pious Israelite looked forward. If social oppression robbed him of that, it robbed him of all. It even cheated him of his faith in the justice of God. On the supposition of a future life, we can adjourn the manifest inequities of this life to the hereafter, and trust that good and evil will yet be balanced justly when time and eternity are put together. In early Hebrew theology, there were no such adjourned assizes for the individual. God must prove his justice here or never. If the wicked waxed fat and the pious were robbed with impunity, the moral order of the universe was under indictment. In Christianity, faith in the future life has to some extent subdued the demand for social justice, as we shall see later. The absence of this belief in Hebrew religion served to make the desire for earthly prosperity more direct and impatient, and belief in the divine justice lent religious sanction to the demand for economic justice. The full strength of the humane social conceptions prevailing in Israel can be gauged only if we draw the law into our discussion. We do not turn away from the prophets when we turn to the law. According to the old interpretation, the entire law contained in the Pentateuch was given by Jehovah to Moses, and thus from the birth of the nation formed the foundation on which its whole life rested. In that case, the prophets drew their ideals from the law, and their preaching was but a summons to the people to obey it. According to the modern critical interpretation, only a small part of the law was of very ancient origin. The book of Deuteronomy was the outgrowth of prophetic ideas and agitation in the 7th century before Christ. The other portions of the law did not originate till the exile or after it, when the life of Judah had been long and deeply saturated with the teaching of the prophets. Thus, on the one hypothesis, the law created the prophets, and on the other hypothesis, the prophets created the law. In either case, the relation is very close and causal. For any thorough discussion of the social ideals embodied in the law, it would be necessary to decide between these two hypotheses. For our purpose, it is sufficient to point out that the law and the prophets are a deposit of the same strong current of historical life, related to each other as cause and effect. The law, of course, recognized such fundamental customs and institutions of primitive Oriental civilization as slavery, polygamy, and blood revenge. Insofar as it gives formal sanction to these institutions, it drops below the conceptions of human rights to which we have now attained. But its general drift and purpose, its regard for the rights of the poor, and its tenderness even for their finer feelings of self-respect, are so noble and humane that one cannot study the social features of the Hebrew law without a thrill of sympathy and admiration. By swift moral intuition, by the instinct of human fellow feeling, under the impulse of religious faith, regulations were conceived there which anticipated and outran the rudimentary protective legislation of our day. We shall glance at a few points only. Now, put up a related video. C.S. Lewis's meditations on why it was that the God of Israel was so reticent in revealing the details of the afterlife to the Hebrews, whereas the nations round about were consumed, we might say, completely obsessed with life after death. The reticence of the Old Testament is remarkable in that circumstance. So Lewis has some profound meditations on that, so I'll link that to your screen.